Welcome back to Wow Decor Tube, where we believe that true creativity is not defined by an unlimited budget or a massive workshop filled with exotic lumber, but rather by the vision you hold in your mind and the potential locked inside even the humblest materials. Which brings us to today's incredibly special episode titled One Piece of Wood, Endless Possibilities, a journey that challenges us to look at a single, solitary board, perhaps a standard pine 1x6 from the hardware store, a reclaimed oak plank from a demolished barn, or even a spare piece of maple left over from a previous renovation, and see not just a scrap of timber, but a universe of functional art waiting to be released. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's unlock the hidden potential of a single board, because the first thing you notice when you pick up that wood is the grain, the story written by nature itself. And your job as a creator is to decide whether to preserve that story in a rustic piece or refine it into something modern and sleek, starting perhaps with the kitchen, where that single board could easily be transformed into a stunning live-edge charcuterie board by simply sanding it down to a silky smooth finish and applying a food-safe mineral oil that makes the grain pop with a vibrant, golden warmth. Or perhaps you cut that same board into smaller geometric shapes to create a set of heavy, minimalist coasters that protect your table while adding a touch of architectural elegance to your morning routine. But let's not stop there, because if you have a bit of length to that board, you could easily rip it down the middle to create narrow strips which, when glued back together with the grain flipping in alternating directions, creates a butcher block style serving tray with handles made from simple leather strips or bent brass hardware, turning a $5 piece of lumber into a $50 centerpiece. And as we move from the kitchen to the living room, that same piece of wood offers even more versatility, perhaps becoming a floating shelf that defies gravity, anchored by hidden dowels. Perfect for displaying your favorite succulent or a vintage camera, or maybe you are feeling more adventurous, and you decide to cut the wood into 3 equal lengths, miter the corners at 45 degrees, and join them to create a modern triangle shelf that frames your wall with a sharp, clean shadow line, effectively turning your storage into high-end wall art. And speaking of art, consider the texture of the wood, because if you take a wire brush to the surface and scrub out the soft grain, you are left with a weathered driftwood texture that looks incredible when stained with a dark walnut finish, perfect for a rustic key holder near your front door where you can screw in simple cup hooks or even bent nails for an industrial vibe. But if your style is more Scandinavian, you might leave the wood raw and pale, cutting it into a simple arch shape to sit on your mantel as a purely decorative object that plays with light and shadow. And we cannot forget the home office, a place that is often cluttered and chaotic. Yet that one piece of wood can be the solution there as well, specifically if you take a short section and use a router or a chisel to carve out a shallow dish for your paperclips and keys, maybe cutting a groove along the back to hold your phone or tablet at the perfect viewing angle, creating a desk organizer that is both tactile and highly functional, reminding you of the natural world while you type away at your computer. And for those of you who love plants, that single board is a garden waiting to happen, as you can drill large holes into it to accept glass test tubes for a propagation station, allowing you to root new pothos or philodendron cuttings in water, suspended in a wooden frame that sits on your windowsill catching the morning light. Or you could cut the wood into 4 trapezoids and join them to make a small planter box for a succulent, sealing the inside with epoxy to prevent water damage. Which brings us to the topic of waste, because in this one piece of wood challenge, even the sawdust and the offcuts are precious. So imagine taking those tiny triangular end cuts, sanding them smooth, and gluing them into a mosaic pattern on a piece of plywood backing to create a stunning piece of wall art that looks like a mountain range or an abstract geometric explosion. Or mixing your sanding dust with wood glue to create a custom-colored wood filler that perfectly matches your project, ensuring that no screw hole or crack interrupts the visual flow of your piece. And let's talk about lighting, because wood and light have a beautiful relationship. So consider taking a section of your board, drilling a hole through the center, and mounting a simple socket kit to create a minimalist table lamp, using an Edison bulb to cast a warm glow that highlights the texture of the timber, or perhaps creating a candle holder by drilling shallow recesses into a long strip of the wood, perfect for tea lights that flicker and dance, creating a spa-like atmosphere in your bathroom, which reminds me that you could also craft a bathtub tray from that single board, cutting it to the width of your tub and adding strips on the bottom to prevent it from sliding, giving you a place to rest your book and a glass of wine after a long day. And the beauty of working with one piece of wood is that it forces you to be resourceful, to think about joinery techniques that don't require metal fasteners, like using a Japanese pull saw to cut box joints or dovetails, which are incredibly strong and visually stunning, showing off your craftsmanship. Or perhaps using dowels of a contrasting wood species to pin your joints, adding a pop of color and a detail that draws the eye in. And if you are feeling truly bold, you might experiment with the Japanese technique of shu-sugi ban, where you lightly torch the surface of the wood to char it, sealing the grain and turning it a deep, rich charcoal black that is weather-resistant and incredibly chic, perfect for a piece that might sit on a patio or a balcony. And conversely, you could go for a whitewashed look by diluting white paint with water and wiping it onto the wood, letting the grain show through for a beachy, coastal vibe that brightens up a dark corner of a room. And let's not overlook the bedroom, where a simple length of that board can become a jewelry organizer by adding small brass pins, or a tie rack, or even a bedside shelf that clamps onto the bed frame if you are short on floor space, demonstrating that the limitation of material is actually a liberation of imagination. Because when you can't just go grab another board, you have to make every inch count. You have to measure twice and cut once. You have to respect the material in a way that mass production never does. And in doing so, you infuse the object with your energy, your patience, and your love, which is something you can feel when you run your hand over the finished piece. A feeling that a plastic item from a big box store can never replicate. And we encourage you to look at the knots in the wood not as defects but as features, framing them centrally in your project, perhaps filling a void with a splash of colored epoxy or even crushed stone and superglue for a geode effect, transforming a flaw into a focal point. And remember that tools don't make the maker. So whether you have a full table saw setup or just a hand saw and some sandpaper, you can achieve these results because wood is forgiving. It can be shaped, smoothed, and refinished, allowing you to learn as you go. And if you make a mistake, creating a cut that is too short, that isn't a failure, it's just a design change, forcing you to pivot and perhaps create a smaller, more intricate object than you originally planned, like a phone stand or a business card holder, or even a set of wooden buttons for a knitted cardigan, proving that nothing is truly wasted until you decide to throw it away. And as you work through your single board, you will find a meditative rhythm in the sanding, the repetitive motion that clears the mind, the smell of the timber filling the air, connecting you to generations of craftspeople who have stood over a bench just like you, solving problems with their hands. And that is what Wow Decor Tube is all about, connecting with that primal urge to create, to improve our surroundings, and to find beauty in simplicity. So whether you choose to make a rustic sign with a hand-painted quote that inspires your family, or a sleek, modern monitor riser that improves your posture at your desk, or a delicate birdhouse to hang in the garden, the source is the same, just one humble piece of wood, waiting for you to unlock its potential. And we hope this stream of ideas has sparked a light bulb moment for you, that you are already looking around your garage or sketching in your notebook, planning how you will transform your own single board into something that makes you say, wow. Because the satisfaction of saying, I made that, is the greatest decoration any home can have. So please, if you enjoyed this journey into the grain, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to let us know you want more deep dives into material potential. And share your own single board projects in the comments below because this community is built on your inspiration. Thank you so much for watching Wow Decor Tube. Keep creating, keep experimenting, And remember that the only limit is your imagination. See you in the next video.